Let's start with e4. Pomerette, 1740. Maybe we'll get a French defense. Indeed. I will let him play the win hour if he wants. It's fun to play for both sides. Let's have this sideline I play against the win hour when I'm white. It looks like I'm sacrificing that pawn, but actually the queen comes out here with a double attack. We'll get to see it. And you get the pawn back. So this has been shown to be at least okay for black. And he knows the right way to play. A lot of times black will defend this pawn instead of the center pawn. But this is the correct move here. And then black gets to chase the queen around in exchange for messing up the king side. So playable for both sides. I don't think black is really better here, but white plays other lines now to try and get more of an advantage. But I think this is interesting. Yeah, I'm undecided here if I drop back and keep pressure on the knight. Or if I oh, look at that. He gives up the pawn in the center in exchange for this one. I haven't seen that move before. So queen takes pawn, knight takes c3. Queen drops back to d3, I guess. And where does the knight go? I mean, he maybe could consider defending the knight. No, I don't see any piece that defends it. So the knight has to move. Can't go here, 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 here. So it goes back. Could go here, here, not there, or back here. Anyway, I get the center pawn. He gets the c pawn. And I have to be a bit careful castling here, obviously, with the open G file. So the knight could go to a5, or it could go back to could go to a4 or back to d5. He chose d5. Makes sense. Let's bring a knight out. I could have maybe played c5 immediately, kick the knight back again. c4. Maybe I could have played c4. The bishop is guarding these squares. The pawn is guarding that square. And where does his knight go? It goes back here, I guess. Let's go ahead and play that now. And I can develop my dark squared bishop. Oh, he went that way. I thought he would go back to f6. Maybe he wants to keep this diagonal open for his queen to come out. Well, that means I can play this without much worry, right? That way my bishop is free to move. I might fianchetto and castle, or I might go somewhere else. I haven't decided yet. So he's attacking this guy. Could move my knight and attack his rook. He takes, and we trade, and then I take the rook. So probably he will move the rook. Let's just defend that pawn. He wants a queen trade. Why would he want that? Don't understand. The bishop will still be defending this pawn. This bishop will be defending this pawn. He is... Rook is hanging. Well, the exchange is hanging. So I can push the pawn to f3. And then if he takes here, I win the exchange for a pawn. And f2 is a reasonable square for my king to get my pieces connected. Otherwise, the rook has to go back. So I've got the bishop pair. I've got more control in the center, it looks like. As long as I can hold on to these pawns, I have more control. And he decides to give up the exchange. Yeah, maybe that's a reasonable deal for him. So I don't have the bishop pair anymore, but I am up the exchange. Just looking to see if there's any tricks with his knight. Tricky knights. Let's bring a rook here. I'm actually threatening to take this pawn now because it's got two attackers and it's only defended by the knight. So he noticed. He noticed and moved his king to the side. Okay, so I'll swing my knight around to this square. Looks like a good square for it. Another idea would be to push the a-pawn and make that knight move somewhere. Not so comfortable for it, but I can't now actually with the bishop and knight coordinating on that square. So here. Looks like a good square for the knight anyway. I could push this pawn forward to make his knight move, but his knight can hop in here. Okay, without the knight there, the bishop is loose. Is there a way to exploit that? I know. I'll put the rook here first. This threatens to push the pawn and win a pawn over here. And penetrate on the 7th rank there should be good for me. When you're playing and you're up the exchange, the important point is to make sure your rooks are active and participating in the game. So otherwise, your opponent is really just a piece up. So he saw that and blocked it. It's being pretty sharp here. What am I going to do? Maybe I should just trade that knight off then. It's kind of a annoyance there. I don't understand that. Is there a trick? Okay, a mistake. But anyway, interesting game. I was probably a little better there, and he was putting up a good fight, but then he just made that mistake. Now let's see if we can get a rapid game. Yeah, I was probably a little better because I was up the exchange, but it was still, there was still some things to be done before I would actually win it. Here we go, Parvinder Kari, 1939. Okay, pretty even game here. Let's see what he's got. I do hope he's going to move. Parvinder, have you gone to sleep? Okay, let's try again. Here we go. I'm going to play e4 again. Just working on my e4s today. So the first game was a French. This one is a Sicilian. Play the open Sicilian. He's doing this knight c6 line, which is not the most common. It's like the second choice, but quite respectable. Okay, and he's going for an accelerated dragon. This gives me the opportunity here to play a Maraxi bind, so let's do that. The purpose also is to prevent the black from getting in the move d5 in one go. So yeah, he decides to play d6. So that's kind of mission accomplished at this point. Let's prepare to castle kingside. Black's move order was not entirely precise. Yeah, normally they play the knight out first because it has this threat of coming here with the attack on the with an attack on the knight. But now I can just take it if it goes there. Oh, no, maybe it's still an issue. It turns out to be a trade. Like knight goes here, bishop takes, queen takes. Looks like I'm up a piece, but then this guy is hanging. But in this case, if he goes here, well, I guess if I ignore it, he can take here. He can take here and attack my queen. Not sure what would happen, actually. Anyway, let's get castled. And bring this rook to the center to defend this knight, and then I'll play b3 to shore up this pawn. And also not to leave a target here on b2. In the long run, I want to get knight to b5, knight to d5 in. Yeah, like here. Let's think about this. I play knight d5 now, and he takes. This is defended because I've got the bishop and the queen on it. So I just take back with the pawn, and then I've got. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. I have a target here in the backwards e-pawn. I'll take with the e-pawn here, and then put my rook on the e-file. This also gives me a majority of pawns on the queen side, which can sometimes be useful later in the game. So my opponent has started to use some of his time, which is good. This is probably still a standard position of some kind, but I'm not that versed in the theory. But we've been playing some pretty typical moves. Let's see. There is maybe an idea of putting the knight there. If this knight were out of the way, then the knight on b6 would be defended by the bishop and would be attacking the rook and his bishop. And there's also the idea of moving the bishop to that square to harass the queen. Like in a situation like this, this is one of those cases where the queen is nearly trapped. So, for example, let's think about this. This is a fun one to talk about. I could play knight to f5. He could take it. Oh, he could take it with the bishop. I would take back. Then he would take the pawn. I would lose a pawn, but I would gain the bishop pair and messed up kingside. That would be worth it. Or if he takes with the pawn, then I could play bishop here. Oh, no, he can bring his knight. He can bring his knight here to defend. So the queen looks like it's almost trapped, but not quite. Okay, so anyway, it's fun to run simulations like that. I'm going to step aside here, prepare to push the f-pawn, and see what he has in mind. There are sometimes these little tricks where the black's position falls apart almost instantly. There's this famous game between Bobby Fischer and Sammy Reshevsky, where Bobby won in about 19 moves, where Reshevsky was playing some kind of accelerated dragon, walked into a trap. Just went back. He, let me back up a second. Was that pawn actually hanging all this time? Oh no, the pawn was defended. He moved. When I go here, he could have just taken that pawn. So I blew that. I made a mistake there. Instead of taking the pawn, he retreated his knight, and now he's gone the other way. Okay, let's defend the pawn, which I should have done before moving my knight. I think I'm going to go with the standard plan of queen d2 and bishop to h6. And just leave the knight here as a lure. I want him to take it. And if he doesn't take it, I'll try and find some way to make use of it and attacking these squares over here. Okay, so he pushes me back finally. And that's okay too. I mean, that's part of the plan. Question is, do I want to trade? Yeah, I think trading makes sense here. Yeah, so you decide to take with the bishop. Yeah, I'm going to pile up on that d-pawn now. I've succeeded in creating a weakness. And yeah, we'll see if he can defend it. The position has been simplified here. We both have light squared bishops. And we both have light squared pawn structures. So he could activate his bishop by pushing this pawn forward. Oh, but I would have taken. So he defended that pawn first. I'm going to keep attacking that pawn. Yeah, so this is interesting, right? I left this bishop here is undefended. Now, I could take the rook. I could maybe play bishop to c4. So pawn takes bishop, queen takes bishop, queen takes queen, rook takes queen. Pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn. What is that? He would have 2 pawns against 1 over here. And I would have a majority in the center, but the queens would be off. Also, in that line, I guess I left my rook hanging, so I would need to do something about that. After pawn takes pawn, I have to play rook takes rook and then take back. Anyway, he can't immediately take this pawn, so I could just defend my bishop. And now I'm threatening to take this pawn. He can't take because his bishop is hanging. You could trade rooks and then take. So I should have traded rooks first. Did not think that through all the way. Yeah, he spotted that. Now we can take. After he takes, though, I can pin his bishop. He can defend it. I can grab a pawn. He can take another pawn. I don't know. I can grab another pawn. He can take another pawn. Looks dicey. But I think I can do at least this one. Now, I have to avoid checks. So, watch out for bishop checks. So I could have taken this pawn and then taken this pawn, but he could keep taking too, and it looked pretty dangerous to me. If queen takes pawn, can I play rook takes rook? Rook takes bishop? Queen takes queen. I can't actually play that. Okay, so he unpinned his bishop. So if I take this pawn, then he gets to move his bishop with tempo. So let's get my queen out of the line of fire there. I'm worried about bishop to b4. b5, hitting my bishop. And if I take, his rook will come down and checkmate me. So I'm going to quick get my king some space. Step 1, get the king a little space. Step 2, move the queen to the side. I'm looking at this. Step 3, bishop b4. Unless he attacks my rook, then I'm in trouble. Can he attack it? He could play queen here to attack my rook, but that would leave this hanging. Maybe there's no good way to attack the rook. Yeah, so he just grabbed the pawn. Let's pile up on f7 there. Now this starts to look dangerous. But I guess he can block with his bishop. He blocks with his bishop. I trade. And then I can grab a pawn. And I'll be back to even. 3 pawns to... Oh, no. How much has he got? Yeah, I'll have 3 and 1 is 4, and I'll have 2 and 2 is 4. Yeah, so I'm 1 pawn down at the moment. Oh, bad, bad, bad. Okay, so trouble is brewing here. Trouble is brewing. But he has to do everything with check because he's in trouble too. He has this check and I block with the queen. Then where's the next check? The queen. Blocking with the queen defends the rook. See the idea of this check? Yeah. That check is a fork between king and rook. But I can block. He has that check. Oh my. And then I still have this threat here, but it's too slow because he's threatening mate. Well, he played a good game. I will think about this for a second here and then resign. I mean, I could defend that with my bishop, but then I lose the rook. And if I try to play this, well, I could play here with check. King could go to a square like that. I could move the rook with check. But at the end of the day, I can't really come back and defend here. Even this square. Even this square, like if the rook went here with check or came back here to defend, the bishop can take it. Yeah, so like I can clear this file by bishop takes check and try and bring the rook back, but it's not working. Okay, so I think that's exhaustive analysis. I'm going to resign here. Anyway, that's it for this session. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Bye now.